Hey, one rental at a time, family. This one's for you. That's what Michael told us to say. But um, I'm here with Coach Carson, and we are going to talk about small but mighty. When I found out I was going to talk with Coach Carson today, I thought, well, what's something we have in common that we can talk about? And both of us, we are in the mindset of small but mighty. Having the 800 unit complex and being the Grant Cardone isn't really what I aspire to be. I don't want to do all the work that it takes to get and have and be who he is. And to me, I feel like having a small but mighty portfolio is key. And it's something that's achievable for anybody out there, anybody. So today we're going to talk with Chad, and we are going to learn more about his small but mighty portfolio. So tell us about your portfolio and why did you choose small but mighty? Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I'll tell a real brief story and tell more details about my portfolio. But I was in the Go Big camp like early on in my career, and it was more just a default because you go to you in my days, 2003, 4, and 5, when I was starting, you go to a seminar, you'd go to a class. There were not a lot of podcasts or YouTube at that point or any, but I would go there, and the most successful investors were the ones flipping 50 houses per year. They own hundreds or thousands of units, and so as a new investor, I'm like, okay, that's successful. I guess we'll just try to copy that. And so my business partner and I started trying to buy a lot of properties. Fast forward to 2007, about 4 years, 5 years after we started, and we had 33 closings in 1 year. And some of those are multi units, some of those were flipping houses. So we had a bunch of activity. And in some ways that was okay. We made some money and that was great. We bought a bunch of properties and good rental properties, but we also made a bunch of mistakes by being too aggressive, moving too fast. And we also bumped into the Great Recession of 2007, 8, 9, and we survived that, but we had to kind of hang on for dear life, and we had to dig into a lot of our cash reserves. And so it was a learning lesson for us about, number one, it can be really risky growing very fast. And it's not, we always talk about the pretty side of that and why it's so amazing to go big and how much efficiency there is. And you can make a lot more money and use leverage. But the other side of that is the people I know who failed in real estate investing did it because of their leverage, because they grew too
Yeah.
fast. Bottom line, that's there's no, I'm sure those people have gone out of business for other reasons, but that is the big risk is not talked about enough. And the other side of that though is just the quality of life. And I know just studying you and following you on social media, your quality of life and the family members and doing what matters to you is like a big part of your investing journey. And that was for me as well. And I actually made a list in 2007. I just got married to my wife, and my business partner and I said, "All right, we're really busy, but like, what would we do if we could wave our magic wand, has as much money as we needed, as much time as we needed? What would we do?" And I wrote down things like, I want to travel abroad. My wife is a Spanish teacher. We wanted to go travel abroad. I wanted to play pickup basketball in the middle of the day because that's what I like to do. I'm kind of like playing sports and hiking and doing things like that. And some of the things I wanted to do cost money, like travel, but in reality, like what I really needed was more time. It wasn't that I needed like copious amounts of money. Like money was great, but you just need a certain amount of money and then you need a lot of time. And going big actually eats most of your time. And I know there's a lot of people who would say, "Oh, you can systematize it, you can outsource it." But I have not met CEOs who have hundreds of employees who are ever really able to let it all go. The people who I know are the
Yeah.
most relaxed are the people who have small portfolios, who keep it simple. And so my business partner decided to aspire to at least be smallish. And we're on the bigger side of small and
You're
mighty.
still big.
We're still big. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
have, I mean, between the two of us, so 50-50 partners, we have 33 properties. So 15 or 16 for me, 15 or 16 for him, and 99 units. And so some of these are small multi units. So 50 units for me, 50 units for him, which I could still consider like on the small side of the big, huge investors. But I've been doing this full time for 21 years. And so a lot of that growth after that first surge of growth has been more organic, slowly growing, reinvesting profits, and doing it in a
Yeah.
more responsible way than we did when we first started. So I think those reasons, the risk, the lifestyle, and ultimately like we've been traveling. So we've been able to, my wife and I have taken many retirements in 2009, 2017, 2022. We've lived in South America and Ecuador for 17 months with our kids. We've lived in Spain for 12 months. I've worked on our community here in Clemson. I volunteer trying to build trails and just things that are really important to me locally. So I feel really lucky to have this abundance of time to do what matters. And that to me is like the calling card of being small and mighty.
I love that. It's the same for me. I have nowhere near what you have. We only have 8 single family rental properties, and we buy one per year. And my small but mighty is that I I'm a control freak in a way, and I want to have full control. I also don't want to partner with people and be in bed financially with other investors. Now, you and your probably your best friend now,
Yeah.
pretty much, I'm sure, after owning all that. Maybe one day I'll want to do that. But for now, we just want to do it on our own. And I was a stay-at-home mom from when I left. Well, even in California, my daughter was born in 2011. I was working kind of part-time at a place, and I was a real estate agent. So not really working in a way. So I was home with her most of the time, and I have a 6-year-old now. So I haven't had a real job. Well, I haven't had a real job, a full-time job, really, since my first job ever that I only had for 3 months. After that, it's been part-time jobs and then a stay-at-home mom for pretty much the past 10 years. And so we were living on one income, and my husband wasn't making 6 figures. So it's not like we had some high income, Silicon Valley sort of job. We're like regular people not making 6 figures. And we still made it work. And we would just buy one property a year. Very low risk. I don't like to take a lot of risk. My dad was an entrepreneur his whole life and never quite made the success that he wanted. And I've always worried that I would fall into that and not be as successful or waste my money on stupid things or be frivolous with my money. So being low risk and buying single family rental properties is really my surefire way to achieve wealth, to not lose my butt, and to make sure that I have money in retirement and I have the generational wealth and I'm buying solid investments that I'm not going to lose my money on. So for me, long-term rentals is the most solid type of investment that you can do. And I wanted time. I didn't want to put my kids in daycare. I wanted to be home with them. I wanted to be a room mom and be all those things. And so for me to be able to do that, I needed to be able to have income coming in without me having to work for it. So with long-term rentals, I could do all the work up front, right? And then it's just managing your property. So that's being small but mighty. I don't want to take a bunch of risks and buy a bunch of, multifamily properties. I don't want to do that. I understand the repairs needed on old properties like that and tenants moving in and out. I like high quality, high income earning tenants that make 6 figures, have Pottery Barn furniture. They live better than I do. I don't have to worry about them. Like my investment, my property is going to be taken care of by these people. So it's a freaking surefire way is to get houses like that and on a single income. Now I have my coaching business, but before that, I didn't. And so we could just get one at a time. But most of those properties are already paid off. So, we're bringing in 140,000 a year in gross rents. Most of that is, net income. And once a few of those are paid off, we'll get even more. So a lot of, one a year starting 8 years ago, some of them we got 30,000 left on a few of them. So that's pretty nice,
Beautiful.
So
beautiful. What do you I have a couple of follow-up questions if you don't mind. So one of those is about the amount of time it takes to manage rental properties. And I get this all the time because I tell people that rentals aren't passive, but they're passive enough. Like you don't have to spend a ton of time. I typically spend a couple hours per week at most on my rental portfolio because I have managers managing it, and my single family houses, the tenants are like that. They just take care of the house. What about you, Casey? Like what would you guess is the amount of time you spend on the overall just rental management part of it?
anytime. Like I would average 0 hours a week. It's so low. On my tenants that are there and paying, nothing's wrong with the property. I'm not going to hear from them all year. I will check in with them and I'll maybe go see the house, inside once a year and once every 6 months. Usually it's once a year if they've been there for a long time and they're neat freaks and OCD. It's amazing. Clean property, nothing's wrong. I don't talk to them. They pay rent. I get a ding that they paid, and that's it. So there is nothing to do, literally nothing to do. Got to organize some receipts when things need to be repaired, but usually there's no repairs because we do quality repair work, quality materials up front. We minimize repairs throughout the life that we own the property. And I put a roof on one house last year. It was super easy to do. Made a phone call, had my roofer go out, put it on. Hey, tenant, are you happy? Yep. They do a good job. Yep. Did he clean up? Yep. Did I pay him? Yep. Done. It's very easy. People think you're going to answer calls in the middle of the night about toilets. And I'll say the only time we've had something similar was last Christmas Eve. And we had, there was a big ice storm and one of my tenants' pipes froze in her house and it busted out and it's pouring water. She couldn't find the water key that I gave her. So she calls me at 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve as we're cooking steaks that she can't turn the water off. And I'm like, go next door and ask your neighbor for help. My husband's on his way. So we ended up, he turned around and came home. She got it figured out. But that was been like the emergency call,
Yeah.
that we've had.
Yeah,
Not
and
that bad.
I always tell people I've had one or two of those as well. But if you think about on the long history of a property, and if people compare that to their job, like how many times have you been called by your job with some emergency or some you have to come work today when you didn't really want to work? Like if you keep that in perspective, like it's so much less, and so the stress on one thing versus another, you have to keep that comparison in mind.
Absolutely. I can answer my phone call from wherever I'm at. And if you probably don't manage yours anymore, do you?
I do a mix. Most of the college rentals,
Okay.
I have managers, but my wife and I have a couple single family houses together
Yeah.
outside of the business, and then we manage those ourselves.
Yeah. And if you're out of country, you can answer the phone call. Just
Yeah.
might be like in the middle of the night because it's daytime, in America,
Yes.
or vice versa. But it's totally doable. So I think for the time management part that you're asking about, it's less than people realize.
Yeah, absolutely. So my second question was, you mentioned about paying properties off, and this is something I have fun with online, like just kind of try to annoy people a little bit, or just push the button, because most real estate investors, at least on the mainstream investors, don't like paying
Refi
off
till you
debts.
die.
Yeah, exactly. So what's part of my philosophy is like, all right, you reinvest your profits eventually. Once you get up to like a certain plateau and you start paying some properties off, reduce your risk, don't like as big. What are your thoughts on why pay off debt?
Mine is I'm not looking to rush and pay them off. I'm not looking to rush and pay them off because I'd rather take that 30K that I owe on the one house and put it down on a new one. I'm not rushing to pay them off, but I'm also not refining until I die. I'm not going to refinance them, especially, of course, today with rates. I mean, all my houses have lower interest rates. Why would I ever do that? So I'm just not that person. I'm not looking to refi. I still have tons of cash. I have too much cash. I need to buy more houses. Do you know what I mean? So maybe if I get to the point where I don't have cash and I need more cash, I might, but honestly, I still think that I won't. My husband still works his job. He doesn't have to work. He can quit tomorrow, but he enjoys it. He works with his best friend. He sits at home, takes naps. Don't tell his boss. No, he does a great job. He's amazing at what he does, but he likes his job, but he could quit. And it's a safety net to know that we could pay off most of our houses tomorrow and get all of that 100% of that income minus, property taxes and home insurance, which would pay for his, cover his salary entirely. It's just a freeing feeling. Like, no, boss, I'm not going back into work. I'm working from home permanently. And if you don't like it, I quit.
Yeah.
That's the power that we have.
Yeah, that's very cool. My parents actually had rental properties, and it's just what you mentioned. They didn't pay off their properties for a long time. My mom was in the medical profession, and so when they had active income, they didn't do it. But then eventually, when they were really ready to retire, it was pretty cool to be able to go, and they sold a couple properties. They sold some. They kind of reduced the size of their portfolio, and then used their extra cash to pay all their properties off. And at that point, you're essentially creating like a pension, like a retirement pension. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people don't think about that until they get there. That, most people who get in retirement age, they have these 401ks, they have stock market investments. And it's kind of hard to figure out how you're going to live off of that. You either have to sell the property, sell the stocks, or it might be in a down market when you do that. So it's just a kind of a complicated thing. Whereas real estate investors, we have a really natural glide path into retirement where the rents go up, the payments either stay the same or you can pay them off. And so your cash flow gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can strategically do it when you want to. Like you said, you can choose, okay, my husband's going to leave his job now. Let's plow back some money and pay the properties off. And you're in control as opposed to the market. A lot of people who are just 100% stocks. I mean, I love stock investing too. So I'm not bashing it, but rental properties are the really nice thing to have if you want to live off of it and be able to actually retire or be able to leave one job and keep working another job.
I remember in my part-time job that I had in California in 2008, there was a woman, she was 55 or so, and she was so excited because she was going to retire. She had 2 more years, she's going to be all done. Market crashed, stock market crashed. She's crying at her desk, and I'm like, "What's wrong? Like, why are you crying? You're like, old lady, but why are you crying? She's like, well, I just lost, 40% or whatever of my 401k, and now I have to work another 5 more years or so." And I'm like, oh. So like it still gives me the chills. And I mean, it was then that I said, I was a real estate agent and working part-time at this other place. And I'm like, this is a wake-up call that I can not only invest in 401k, like have to buy rental property, something else that rises with inflation, something a little bit more guaranteed that I have more control over.
Yep. Well, I love it. I've always thought we had a lot in common. Watching your posts and look at what you're talking about, but from the time standpoint, from reducing your risk to increasing your income, I'm obviously a big fan of the small and mighty approach. It seems like you are as well. And thanks for sharing all your opinions on your background. Is there any, you want to give you the final word? Any other things you would comment about this?
No, that's it. Just make sure to give Michael Zuber a subscribe if you guys are watching this and haven't subscribed to his channel. He's fantastic, amazing. He has like 3 different channels now that he puts stuff on. So make sure you guys are following Michael Zuber, and you can find me at Brick by Brick Wealth, Instagram, and other places. And how about you, Coach Carson? Where are you normally at?
Yeah, if you search Coach Carson on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, I'm out there. So would love to connect with you and come say hello.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.